Clementine Hunter Still Lifes. Before you start working today, make sure your name is clearly written on the back with your teacher code. We are painting only the background today, so I'm looking at all the space behind and between and next to the subject of my drawing. First, paint all around the edge of your paper. This will create a box for you to paint in. Next, paint around the edges of all the shapes in your subject. That means around all the flowers that you have drawn. We want to make sure to fill the whole background. We're going to paint the flowers with their details later, and we don't want any white paper showing through when we're done. So make sure you get around all the edges of each flower. Oh, and don't worry about staying in the lines. All you're doing is giving your eyes a guide for the shapes that you want to paint later. Your flowers are going to overlap your background, so go ahead and paint over those lines so they start to disappear. Once you have finished outlining your flower shapes, you can fill in these empty spaces that are left behind for the background. You're filling your entire background in one color. Once the background of your flowers is painted, if you have drawn a table, you can paint that next. Start by painting a line next to the paint that you have just done and outlining your vase. Clementine Hunter always painted her still lifes with just one color background. She didn't show her vase on a table. But if you've chosen to show a table on your painting, you're welcome to paint it. Just make sure you have time left in class to finish the table before you start. Once again, to paint the background of your masterpiece, start by painting the edges of your paper. Then carefully outline the shapes of your subject. In our case, we are outlining the shapes of the flowers in our vase. Once your flowers and your vase have been carefully outlined, you're free to paint in the empty spaces of your background. This will move a little bit faster because you don't have to be as careful. The nice, thick painting outline will give you a safe place to paint freely in. Now that my subject is totally outlined and the background is all painted in, I'm going back and looking at the edges of the important shapes on my paper. This vase looks a little lopsided, so I'm just fixing the edges a little bit. If they're not perfect, it's okay. When we come back tomorrow to paint the vase, I can paint it just the way I want. Hey, where are you going with that art? Leave your art on the table. Don't take your art anywhere. It needs to sit on your table to get dry. Thank you. Now that your background is dry and your vase is painted, you can start painting your flowers. I've chosen to paint 4 of my flowers orange, so I'm painting all the orange that I need before I will switch brushes or wash my brush and get a new color. Notice that I am outlining the flowers with a big circle before I paint in the middle. This will keep my shape nice and neat. This painting is all painted and ready for some details. I've left a white spot here, so I'll cover it up. And this one doesn't have any white spots, but I can still add some details to the purple flowers. Some dots, and this one gets a wavy line. I just want to make sure that all my flowers have something interesting going on, and that I'm sure to cover up all the white spots on the paper. You can leave your flowers as plain or as decorated as you like. We can always add more details later with some oil pastels. I've finished painting the background, the subject, and the details of my painting. It's all dry, and now I'm using some oil pastels to add some stems and leaves to my vase. This will give a little bit more fullness to my composition and make it look a little bit more realistic.